You cross me. Is that understood? Pike, surrender your sidearm for inspection. What the fuck are vanilla motherfuckers like that? Are you implying something negative about the great state of Mississippi?
At the story start, we spot some rangers in a helicopter heading out on a training mission. Their sergeant, West, informs them they must split into 2 teams, and the team that gets to the shelter first will be the winner. Following this, the scene changes and moves toward the base, where we soon learn that the squad which went on that training mission hasn't made any contact with them for 6 hours. After that, Colonel Stylus takes his team to locate them via helicopter. There they spot a man from that squad moving somewhere with one of his soldiers. Just then, one of their guys fires at him, and they quickly get out of the helicopter. But by that point, it was too late. For people came back from that event. 2 of them were deceased, and one of them was in terrible shape. Just one man remained. Captain Julia Osborne, who is an in-house investigator, tries to investigate, but that soldier does not say anything, and he writes something on one page and gives it to her. Julia comes out and shows that paper to Colonel Stylus on which it is written that he will only talk to an off-post ranger, and under that page, he has made a symbol of 8. Looking at which, Colonel Stylus tells Julia that he knows a man on whom Julia does not agree at all, because she feels that perhaps it is legally improper to hear out a criminal. But the colonel does not listen to her. The colonel must resolve this issue as quickly as possible, because soon, the top brass will arrive and hold him accountable for everything. That's why he calls someone who is regarded as the best investigating officer of his era, and he is the main protagonist of our story today. So Colonel Stylus calls Tom Hardy and requests him to come there right away. He informs Julia that Tom was in the army previously, but he was kicked out over a drug dealing case, and now he is a DEA at a drug center. When Tom arrives, they explain the entire situation to him, and Stylus informs him that anything he finds in this case will be under Julia's name, because Tom is not in the military anymore, and this is a covert investigation. Just then, Colonel Stylus pulls Tom aside and tells him some things. Now Tom and Julia, who really don't click at all, enter the interrogation room where Sergeant Raymond waits. Julia informs him that she attempted to speak to Raymond a lot, but he said nothing. Then Tom claims that he will get him talking in 3 minutes. Tom casually asks Raymond a question, which Julia really dislikes, but she stays silent. When Tom begins speaking to Raymond, he slowly starts to open up. Julia is amazed to see this. Then he informs her that all the other men who went with him are deceased. Now the flashback begins. Here we see Sergeant West, who is training these guys. All the members of his squad went on that mission. Here we spot a soldier, Pike, who is a black man, and Sergeant West really dislikes him, and he torments him in various ways. Then Raymond explains that all those men went on a training mission where they traversed many mountains and rivers. And when they were scaling a mountain after everyone else got up, Pike lagged behind. Sergeant West requested his backpack, and everyone assumed that perhaps he was assisting him. But then he tossed the backpack down into the valley and ordered Pike to retrieve it. Witnessing this event, all the members of his squad were extremely frightened, because they believed Sergeant West intended to harm them, calling it a mission accident. Especially Pike. After that mission, as soon as Pike returned, Sergeant West arrived and took him back out without a pause on that mission. When that event occurred, everyone realized Sergeant West was just too harsh, and everyone had a motive to want him gone. After learning all this, they go to see Lieutenant Levis Kendall, whom Raymond brought back. Here we see that when Tom and Julia arrive at the hospital, they meet Julia's boyfriend, Pete Wilmer, who is the hospital's supervisor and Tom's old buddy. Following this, they enter Lewis's room, where he hadn't said anything before. But when Tom tells him that if he says nothing, then they will accept the same story that Raymond told. After which, Lewis admits he is gay and Sergeant West was aware of it. Lewis says he is General Jonathan Kendall's son and he entered the army due to his pressure. He did not want to be there. And when he was assigned under West, he was in a tough spot because West was too harsh. After this, the scene changes to the day when everyone was in the helicopter and Sergeant West was creating their teams. Lewis says the teams were Raymond, Miller, Pike, Nunez, and Lewis with Castro. He says Sergeant West put him with Castro because he knew he wouldn't succeed. Lewis believed Sergeant West wanted him dead on that mission. Lewis says an explosion happened there, and when everyone arrived, they found that West was dead. Following this, everyone went to the shelter, where everybody was present except for Pike. Soon after, Pike arrived, and everyone checked his grenade. But it was missing. This means that Pike caused that explosion and took out West. And Pike has accepted this fact. Following this, they tied Pike up, and everyone went to sleep. After some time, Lewis noticed Pike and Raymond were talking together, and they were discussing harming Miller and Nunez. Meanwhile, everyone woke up and the firing started. Raymond harmed Castro. That's why Miller was following him. On the same day, everyone else was harmed in the firing. After hearing this version, Tom asks Lewis that if this is accurate, then why did Raymond rescue him? To which Lewis replies that he believes that Raymond requires a witness. And Raymond probably figured that maybe Lewis would back him up. After all this, Tom and Julia visit Raymond one more time, where Tom tells him that Lewis has told him everything. If he still says nothing, then Lewis's story will be accepted as true. Upon hearing this, Raymond tells him about Miller's drug operation. And once more we are shown the flashback of that day, when all those men had gone on that training mission. This time we can see that when all those men look at Miller's body and head toward the shelter, then Miller is already present there, and he is not wearing his shirt. Those people ask Miller to show his grenade, where we can see that Miller has a grenade, after which once again the suspicion goes on top of Pike, and those people capture him. Then we see that Pike tells Raymond that if he had taken out West, then there would be blood spatter on him from the bullet shot up close, which isn't on him, but Miller is missing his shirt. This means that he has taken out West. He tells Raymond that because he is a black man, if these guys turn him over to the army, then he will surely be executed. Later he also tells Raymond that Miller had supplied him with drugs, and he has also gotten him addicted, because West's training was proving too much for Pike, for which he used the help of drugs. After this, he tells Raymond that Castro is also in on it with Miller, and Sergeant West found out about their drug operation. That's why both of them took him out. After hearing all this, Raymond also starts to believe what Pike says. And just as he moves forward to untie him, that's when the other men wake up. Pike asks Miller about his shirt, and tries to expose the truth to everyone. But just then, Miller shoots him. After which, Castro hands weapons to the rest of the men. Because he was also in on it with Miller, they tell the other 3 men to join them. But just then the roof collapses, and everyone starts shooting, in which Nunez and Castro are harmed, while Raymond returns with Lewis. So now there are 2 versions here, one from Lewis and the other from Raymond. According to Lewis's version, Raymond is the guilty one, and according to Raymond's version, Miller and Castro. So now how will Tom discover the truth? This is a big question, which Tom doesn't have the solution to yet. After some time, those people tell Raymond to write everything down, after which Raymond shows them a syringe, which was given to him by Pike. He informs them that there is a Pete Wilmer at the hospital, who was assisting Miller and Castro. Upon hearing this, Julia is stunned, because Pete is her boyfriend, and he was moving drugs right under her nose, and she had no idea. Julia and Tom confront Pete, who said nothing earlier, but then Julia breaks his nose in a rage, and he tells them he used to give drugs to Lewis, and Miller and Castro used to distribute drugs. So now 3 people had a reason to want West gone: Miller, Castro, and Lewis, because those 3 were involved in that drug business. But why is Lewis blaming Raymond? This is still not evident. That's why Julia and Tom go to see Lewis again, who doesn't tell them anything. But then he starts to bleed, and he dies, vomiting blood. After which Colonel Stylus arrives and suspends Julia, and tells Tom to leave. While dying, Lewis drew an 8 sign on Julia's hand. When she shows it to Tom, he reveals a secret, which was told to him by Colonel Stylus earlier. Tom tells her that all those people who went on that mission, they were all members of Section 8. They were all crazy. Colonel Stylus had told him this. The scene changes, and we see Raymond being led away from there, and to transfer Pete, when Julia and Tom arrive. Then Pete accidentally reveals a huge secret, in which he tells them that the man with whom she has investigated so far, he is Pike. This means that Raymond was the black man. This means that the story Pike told while pretending to be Raymond, it was just to save himself, because he had put all the blame on Pike, and he posed as Raymond and went free. After hearing all this, Tom and Julia head to the airport right away, where they intercept Pike immediately. And once more, Pike is asked for the truth, on which he tells them that the day when they reached the shelter, then Castro, Nunez, Lewis, and Miller were discussing drugs. That's when West arrived. He already knew everything, after which they started trying to take him out. Pike tells him that he fled toward the jungle from there. But then Sergeant West ordered him to surrender. But because Pike did nothing wrong, that's why he wanted to leave from there. But then someone shot West, and Pike changed his batch with Raymond and saved Lewis to support him. After all this is over, Tom goes for a drink with Colonel Stylus, where he asks Colonel Stylus that if Sergeant West knew everything, then why didn't he say anything to Stylus? To which Stylus laughs. Then Tom says that the truth is that West told him everything. But because he was a part of this operation, that's why he asked Miller and Castro to take out West. And he poisoned Lewis in the hospital, because he didn't want to expose the drug operation. After hearing all this, Colonel Stylus bribes Tom and asks him to join him. But Tom does not listen to him, on which he is about to shoot Tom. That's when someone shoots Colonel Stylus from outside the window. It was Captain Julia Osborne, who heard everything. After all this is finished, Tom gives his number to Julia and says farewell to her and departs. But then Julia senses something is off, and she follows Tom, where she sees that after a moment Tom stops the car. And then Pike arrives, with whom Tom starts to head somewhere. Following Tom, Julia arrives at a building. Now Julia senses that all this was Tom's scheme, because he knew all those men who were involved in that operation. And he took out Sergeant West, because Tom also served under him. And he also did not like West at all. Now as Julia reaches upstairs, she shoots Tom. But then suddenly a man comes in front of Julia. She is shocked to see him, because that man was Sergeant West. And one by one all those dead people arrive there. Raymond, Pike, and Nunez. Now Julia doesn't understand anything here, on which Sergeant West informs her that they are officially deceased, but unofficially they are alive thanks to Tom. He tells her that he informed Colonel Stylus about drug dealing, but when he gave no response to him, he realized that perhaps they are also involved in that business. And that's why they asked Tom for help to save their lives, who took out all the people involved in that plan and rescued the rest of the people. Now Tom explains that those people are official Section 8. People are afraid of them. They also offer a job to Julia. At the end, one of them calls Tom Marshall, on which Julia is once again stunned. And with this amazed Julia, our story concludes here.